you hear anything? Okay. Okay, we're going to start on Kuf Dalet Amud Beis right after the Mishnah. I'll speak out the Mishnah and then start right away. So we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. It's plus of our learning. We should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Okay, we learned in the Mishnah all types of ambiguous statements, what the person has to do. If it's unclear how large his mincha is or what type of mincha it is. So the first case of the Mishnah was if someone says, I accepted on myself to bring an isarin, which is the smallest size of a mincha, so then he brings an isarin, there's no problem. He says it's very nice. If he says two is two isarin, which is basically a plural. If he doesn't say two, if he uses a plural term, then he brings two. If he says that I designated a certain amount, but I can't remember, so then he has to bring 60 isarin. Okay, let's start in the Gemara. There was at the end of the Mishnah, there was an opinion of Rebbe that said that if a person doesn't remember, he has to bring not just 60 isarin, but he has to bring 60 he has to bring from 1 to 60, which is much more than 60. So it's like 1800 approximately, right? Okay, so the Gemara starts off with its first question. We said that if someone says he's going to bring an isarin, so he brings an isarin, the Gemara says pshita. That's obvious. Of course, he says one, he's going to bring one. It says esreinus yavishtayim it's shichalei. Chiddush is that if he says a plural, that he's going to bring two. Gemara says anami pshita, a plural it would be two. So the Gemara explains miyat esreinus shtayim, and you don't have to bring 60, which could have been a possibility. Because it's theoretically any plural could go up to 60, right? Because we said 60 was the limit. The Gemara says that's it's shichalei. The fact that you just have to bring two and not 60, that's the chiddush. Now, Gemara says,
common whenever it says plural is minimum two.
right. Yeah, what did they comment? Do they have any comment to that? Okay. Now it says, Pirashti, Beni Yedema Pirashti, Yavishishim Isarim. The third statement of the Mishnah was that the third clause of the Mishnah was that if he says, I specified a specific amount that I'm going to bring, but I just can't remember how much it was, then you have to bring 60. So, Mantana, who's the opinion that holds that you only have to bring one mincha, and which contains 60 isarim? So, Amar Chizkid, like Rebbe, the Chizkid says, well, it's definitely not Rebbe, because Rebbe at the end of our Mishnah says, Di Rebbe, Hamar, Rebbe said, Yavi Menachos shel Esreinas Mechad Vad Shishim. Rebbe held that in such a case you would have to bring 1 to 60, which was 1800 approximately. So not just 60, because you have to bring each one. You have to bring a mincha of 1, you have to bring a mincha of 2, you have to bring a mincha of 3, you have to bring. So it's 1 plus 2 plus 3. Rabbi Yochanan says no. Afilu tema Rebbe. Really, the end of the Mishnah is different. In the beginning of the Mishnah, it says you bring 1 to 60 is really Rebbe. So, and what's the case? I didn't say, I said a certain amount, but I didn't say that all of those had to be in one keli. So if that's the case, the Maisi Shitin, Esreinas, Beshitin Mani. Over there, all I need is 60 pots. I bring one in a pot, and I bring another one in the same size pot, and another one same size, all 60 in the same size pot. And then, because I said a certain number, but I didn't say that they all need to be in one vessel, so now I can have a 3, I can have a 10, I can have all this, but they're all, it's how, because I combined 3 vessels, and it's all That's going to work. Problem was, if I said that I was going to have a certain number, any random number between 1 and 60, right, 55, that in one vessel, then I would have to have exactly a 55 in a 55 vessel. But I didn't say that. I just said I'm going to bring 55 Isaran. So then, okay, 55 Isaran, okay, so bring 55 vessels of one Isaran each. It's a different case. That case, Rebbe would agree to. Yeah, that's part of the reason why we don't go above 60. Someone says, I'm accepting on myself a mincha, but he didn't say which type of mincha. So the first opinion was, you bring whichever one you want. There's 5 types of mincha, right? The flat pan, the deep pan, that you could this. So that's what you bring any one you want. Now there's a machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda said no. Rabbi Yehuda said that you have to bring minchas soilas. It says that's the unique one. That's the main one of the minchas. So when it says Tana, what makes that the main one? Why does he say mincha soilas, the flour one, which is the one that was just flour and oil before it was baked? He says, why is that the main one? He says, because when the Torah talks about mincha, that's the one that it talks about first. He says, is that how it works? That whenever you say, whenever there's a list, you always say that the main one is the first one on the list? What about alphabetical order? The Gemara doesn't ask that. The Gemara says, turns out is that when the Torah talks about the carbon oil, it gives you 2 options. It says ben bakar or it says tzayin, either cattle or sheep or flock, which means you either bring an animal, which is like a bull, or you bring a lamb, sheep. It's a different family. But in the options, it listed the cattle first. So if we always follow one that was said first is the main one, is the one that we're recommending, so then that's what you should bring. If a person says, I'm going to bring, and instead of bringing the sheep, you should bring the cattle. Or if someone says, minat from the flock, then from the flock, there's also 2 options. Either it could be a sheep or goat that says, yavi keves. You should bring the keves because that one says before the goat. According to your logic, this is what would come out. There's a discussion about by the list of marar in Pesachim. It says there's 5 types of marar, chazeres and ulshan and all these different types. And the last one is marar. So there's a discussion if the main one is the chazeres or because that's the first one on the list, or if they're all equal, just choose any one. That's what the Gemara is asking. Is that what you have to do? The problem is, or if it says mina'if, someone says he's going to bring a bird. So Yavi Tairim, he has to bring the Tairim, I guess it's a turtle does instead of the does. Because that was mentioned first. So now, if you're going to say that that's actually correct, Allah Tanan, so why did we learn in the Mishnah exactly the opposite? Yavi Keves. If someone says I'm bringing an oila, what does he bring? Not a bull, not a ben bakar. He brings a lamb. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Aimer, Tari ben Yaina. He could bring even a bird. Tari ben Yaina. V'lei palig Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda doesn't say over there, oh no, you have to bring the one that was listed first, like he does by the mincha. He says it because it's listed first. Ella, my miyuchedesh shebemincha. What did Rabbi Yehuda mean that when he said that this is the main one? Not based on it's not because of what the Brisa said that rather it's because of the les l'shem levai. It's because mincha in the Torah, let's say this a modifying term. If someone says a mincha and he doesn't have any modifier there, then he brings the mincha of flour because that's the only one in the Torah that doesn't have a modifier. The other ones have a modifier, which is the mincha of a flat pan, mincha of a deep pan, mincha that's baked in the oven, and mincha of this. This is just a mincha, just a mincha of the flour. So because there's no modifier there in the Torah, and he said that he said a mincha, so that's the one that he's going to bring. He's going to bring the one that doesn't have a modifier. It'll be like the default. The Gemara asks, but what are you going to do? You can't just disregard the brisa. The brisa clearly said that the reason why Rabbi Yehuda held that was because it doesn't have a modifier. It says no, that you misunderstood it. Which is the main mincha that doesn't have a modifier? That was just a siman to remember which mincha didn't have the modifier. That was the first one. Okay, where's this pshita? It's obvious. Rabbi Yehuda says mincha selis coming. He said which one it is. He said it's mincha selis. He says no. The fact that we said that's the first one, it's l'siman malma. That was just a way to remember in case we forget which one Rabbi Yehuda meant. You look it up and you see over there that that's the first one. Siman balma. You just look up which one's the first one listed, and then you'll remember which one Rabbi Yehuda meant. Okay. Now we're going to get in a little bit of grammar confusions here. It says mincha, a min mincha. If someone says he's accepting on himself to bring a mincha or a type of mincha, then he would bring one. But if he says menachos, which means plural, or a type of plural, min menachos, so then he has to bring two. Rav Papa asks, mine mincha mahu. Let's say he says types of fish. No, types of mincha. Types of mincha. So he says types plural, but mincha does singular. So what's going to be? Kivan damer mine, because he said types. So tarti kamer, he meant two. My mincha. So why did he say mincha, which is singular? The kula mincha is not mincha mikarian, because he used the, what's it called? The collective singular, I think. All together, they're called a mincha, right? This is the law of the mincha, and included in that is all five. So when he said mine types, he meant two of the five. So he said mincha. So that's because they're all in one collective category. But or maybe we should look at it differently. The fact is, he said mincha. So chad mincha kamar. He said he really meant one. My meaning mincha. So why do you say types? That sounds like a plural, not one. So zachi kamar. Mi mine mincha. From the types of mincha. Chad mincha alai. I'm going to bring one. From the types of mincha, I'm going to bring one. That's what he meant. He said, but he really means that he's only going to bring one. So that's Rav Papa's question. Well, Tashima. Take a look. Maybe we can bring a proof from our Mishnah. It says mincha, min mincha, yavi achas. Person says that I'm going to bring a mincha, or one mincha, or not say one, or a type of mincha. He's going to bring one. Mine mincha. If he would continue to bring one, even if he says types, then the Mishnah should have told me the bigger chiddush. Types of mincha, he brings one. Then do that. It said a type of mincha, he brings one. So that would imply that if he would say types of mincha, then he would have to bring two. Shtayim. Ema seifa. So let's read further. It says menachos min menachos yavi shtayim. He says plural min menachos, or types, a type of menachos. He brings two. Could be medayik from that the opposite. If he would have said meaning mincha, types of mincha, then it would only be one, chada. That would imply the other way. Okay, so in the Mishnah, we can't be medayik because you have a diak from this way tells you two, and then what's implied from that and tells you one, called diyukim saisrim. So we can't use the Mishnah. The Mishnah is obviously not being specific when it's saying those terms that we should be able to imply from it. Tashima. So come and listen. We're going to try to prove from our brisa. Min menachos alai. It says a type of menachos on me. Yavishtei menachos min echad. Has to bring two menachos, but from one type. type of menachos. One type, but two menachos. Ha mine mincha. But if we would say types of mincha, which would be types plural, mincha singular, then that would imply probably chada. They only bring one mincha. Where it says no, dilma hamini mincha, maybe shtei menachos mishnei minim. Maybe over there you'd have to bring two menachos from two different types, because he said minei types. Where it says v'aleitani achi, but the Brisa doesn't say that, because the Brisa says min menachos alai, maybe shtei menachos min menachot. If he says a type of menachos on me, he has to bring two menachos, but from one type, because he said a singular type. Minei menachos alai, so types of menachos, maybe shtei menachos mishnei minim. Then you have to bring two menachos, and each one from a different type. Ha minei mincha. But if we would say types of a singular mincha, then you only have to bring one mincha. When it says Dilma Hamani, maybe we could say that this brisa is the opinion of that would hold that you only have to bring one. Reb Shimoni, the Amar Mechzachalis Mechzerkikin Yavi, he holds that you have an ability to bring when it comes to the mincha mafetaner, the one that's baked in the oven. So you're supposed to have 10 loaves. If you bring chales, or you have 10 wafers if you bring rikikin, right? So Reb Shimon holds that it's fine to bring 5 and 5 and together. So maybe you would say regarding this mincha, my mine mincha, types of mincha de ispe trey meaning. Maybe he meant the types, the one that has two types in this. Maybe that would be Abel Rabbanan da Amri Mechta Chales Mechta Kikin Layavi. According to Rabbanan that don't say this, they would say maybe Shtei Menachos Mishtei Minim. Maybe according to them, you would still have to say, according to the Rabbanan, you would have to bring two Menachos from two Minim because you said types. But we don't have an answer if that's what the Rabbanan would really hold. Okay, it's left as a question. Pop this question. Pirashti, the next case. The Mishnah said, I specified, but I don't remember which type I specified, then you have to bring one from each type. Right? The discussion if someone takes a pledge by the gets Aliyah and the Sefer Torah says he takes a pledge, he says, I'm going to give a gift. What gift does he have to give? He says, I'm going to give a matana, a donation. How much is that donation? If he said, just pledge the donation. Is it the smallest amount? Is it $1? Is it the typical amount, which is 18? Or is it his typical amount? Sometimes he says what he usually pledges. I think we say that a person usually has a typical amount that he would give, like 3 times high, whatever, 10 times high, whatever his typical amount is. But in order to avoid that, it's better to say an actual amount to avoid the problem.
He has to take one of each. Even in this, if he said singular.
Yeah, because we don't know. He has to take one of each because he doesn't know which one he specified. He said, I specified one of them, I can't remember which one I specified. Yeah, that's not a problem because it's donation offering. Yeah. This is like promising one of your kids chocolate and you can't remember which one it was. And they're all claiming that it was me. Yeah. So, Montana, who's the author of this that says you have to bring all 5? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, the Laker Reb Shimon. So I don't know who it is, but I know it's not Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon, because if it would be Reb Shimon, Shimon holds that you're allowed to bring in 2 of the menachos is the one that's baked in the oven. So you have 3 plus 2. You have the silas, flat pan, the flour one, flat pan, the deep pan, and then the baked in the oven, which is divided into 2, either chalis or rikikin, loaves or wafers. Shimon holds that the loaves or wafers is not just 10 loaves or 10 wafers, but it could also be 5 loaves and 5 wafers, or any other combination, 6 and 4, 7 and 3. It could be any. So if, according to Reb Shimon, what you would need to do is kimin damar mechzachals mechzer kikin yavi. Inami Savalak Rabbi Yehuda Damakol Menachos Beiseser, or maybe he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that all menachos have to be 10. Whatever the case is, Ikal Esvuki Bar Besim Menachos. Possible that maybe he pledged one of the combinations, and it would actually, instead of bringing 5, it'd have to bring 14. The 14 are like this. Either first start off with the whole ones, either 10 chalas or 10 rikikin. That's 2. Then we can do 1 chala, 9 rikikin. That would go. Then we have 9 of these options, right? 1 to 9, 2 to 8, 3 to 7. That's going to be 9, right? But that's going to be a total of 11, because plus the first 2, which is 10 of this or 10 of that. 9 plus 2 is 11. And then we're going to have, for number 12, we'll have the 3 others, which is the flat pan. It's going to take us to 14. According to Rav Meir, that said that. According to Rav Meir held that you have 12. You have 12 chalas in each one, not 10. Remember, Rav Meir held that there were 12. Each type needed 12. So then, according to Rav Meir, it's going to be 16. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On the previous case of Hifrashti, below your name, why isn't that considered a pico?
Pickle is during the offering, and you have the intention of eating it at the
It has
wrong
to
time.
be mamish during your.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
because
This is just a nether question. I took a pledge, and I don't remember what the pledge was. Imagine if someone took a pledge, and the shul, and he doesn't remember how much it was. So we tell him, well, you have to give every multiple of chai that we have. You have to give 18, you have to give 36, and work your way through all the way up till 100 times chai.
You have no
numbers.
Yeah.
So, what does that have to do with Rabbi Yehuda? No. Oh, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's Rabbi Yehuda that says it's 10. According to Rabbi Meir that says that it's 12, it's going to be even more. So one thing's for sure is our Mishnah is not Reb Shimon. No, our Mishnah could be Reb Shimon. We know that Reb Shimon holds that if someone has a doubt, he can make a condition, and he could satisfy it with the conditions, which means that he would only need to bring two of this 10 chalas, 10 rikikin, and make a condition that you figure it out what the combination is supposed to be. So it's not going to be. The Tanya was taught in Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says if a nazir wasn't sure if he's tamei or tar, or mitzayra, if he's not sure if he was actually a muchlat, if he was actually a mitzayra or not, so can't bring a carbon until the 61st day after the Naziris. The following day, maybe Asham Evelugai, he brings his Asham, which is the Asham of the Nazir, and the Loig, which is the Loig Shemen, the Loig Umay, top of 105b. And he says, if the person is a Mitzayra, Zeu Asham of Zelugai. This is Asham Shai, the Asham of the Mitzayra. Then this is Asham, and this is the Loig. Imlav, Asham Zeyasham and David, and the Asham would be for in other words, you can make a stipulation. And you can say the Asham will be for a peace offering. But you say Asham Tan Shchita Batzafain. And what are you going to do with it? The Shlamim will be in the Dava. How will we do it? We'll bring it on this north. Because even if it's just a shlamim, we can bring it on the north. Matan b'haina is usmicha unasachim. We're going to do that. All of that we'll put it on the hand, the blood on the hands as if it's a mitzayra. We'll do smicha on it as if it's the shlamim. We'll bring the nasachim as if it's a nasham. V'tunufas chatzav v'shaik as if it's a shlamim. V'nechal zichri kuna liyam b'layla as if it's a nasham. And v'afagav the mefarik mar shchitas kadshim. even though Rabba answered in Kodshim that Emadam Reb Shimon Maisi Masni Lechatchil Letzkuni Gavra Aval Ba'alma. But when did Reb Shimon say this? That's only when we have this problem, but not Lechatchila. If you don't have any reason for this, b'di'evad in Lechatchila loy, then you would never do this Lechatchila. So, what are you saying that over here you're going to do? You're going to make this stipulation. It says Hani Mili Gabi Shlamim the Kamayit Bechalas. And the reason why over there was only a b'di'evad is because we were taking a sacrifice that could be a shlamim, and you're eating it in one day and one night, which is really supposed to be 2 days and one night. So we don't like to diminish the amount of time that you have to eat a korban. So over there, by the korban, with a doubt if it's an asham or a shlamim, if he's really chayiv or not. So over there, we would say that only a b'di'evad when you don't know what to do. But over here, the kachim lebeis apsul, because over there you'd be bringing kachim to just to be burnt, because if you don't finish in time, you have to right. It becomes nicer, and we're just going to burn kachim. However, aval menaches lechatchila, but by menachas even lechatchila you should be able to make the stipulation. We're talking about according to Reb Shimon that holds that you can make combinations of the loaves and the wafers. It could be 5 and 5, or it could be 9 and 1, or it could be 8 and 2, or 7 and 3, or 6 and 4, all the way down. Well, that's the same thing on the bottom, so it goes the other way. But so according to Reb Shimon, you're still only going to have all 5. You're not going to have 14, because you're not going to throw them. Why? Because you can make a stipulation that if it's supposed to be this, it says. And meanwhile, you bring 10 of each, and then you make that stipulation.
The case of the shlamim that would be in Asham,
Yeah.
that you said, is there a name for that one?
No.
No,
it's not like an asham tali or something. No, there's something that's.
No. Is there a name, a halachic name for why you can't do that normally?
You bring in kachim lebeis apsul. Yeah, you're making them when you diminish the amount of time they have to eat it. So we think that you're actually spoiling kachim intentionally. You're intentionally lessening the amount of time that you have, which means that there's going to be quicker spoilage. Right? Amalira papala abaya. Yeah, that's why we don't extend it. You can't extend it, so you make it lesser. Make it lesser, but if it would be the other one, then it should be longer. So that's that problem. Papa says the one who said this was Abaya, says that our Mishnah could be Reb Shimon. Reb Yirmiyah says, I know that our Mishnah is not Reb Shimon, because it says you only bring 5. According to Reb Shimon, you should bring 14. According to Reb Yehuda, that says each one was 10 challah. Abaya says, no, it could be Reb Shimon, and we do it stipulation. Or Papa says to Abaya, Reb Shimon, Damar, Mechza Chalas, Mechza Rikikin Yavi. According to Reb Shimon, that holds that you can bring 5 and 5. And you said that you can just do a stipulation. Hakamaisi Yisaran Echad, Mishnei Yisaran. You're not doing it. Rav Papa saying you're not doing the mincha right. If it was meant to be one mincha, it's supposed to be 5 and 5, let's say. So you do one kmitza. You don't do 2 kmitzas. You do one kmitza. But over here, it's turning out that you don't know which one it was. So you're gonna have to bring a kmitza from this. You're gonna have to do a kmitza from that. K'maisi yisaran echad, mishnei yisaran. If he's bringing one isarin, really one isarin is the mincha, and it's coming from 2 isarin, because you have to bring 2 because you don't know which one it was. So you're bringing a kaimetz from 2 menachos, v'loy gechad mishnei lugim, and you're bringing one loig from the 2 lugim. Gemara says that Shamin later Reb Shimon Damar Hevi Yisar Nechem Mishnei Yisrael so Logach and Mishnei Lugam Yatza. Let me take a look what how they're explaining it. I think the problem is that he was supposed to do a different type of kmitza if it was only one mincha. But it says, according to Reb Shimon, it says when we bring an oven baked mincha composed partly chalas, partly of rakikin, the following question arises: how can we say that the Mishnah accords with Reb Shimon by suggesting that the person stipulates that the chalas of one isaron should be combined with the rakikin of another isaron to meet the requirements of the vow? Why he would then be bringing a single isaron of flour drawn from two isaronos and a single loig drawn from two lugin. In other words, let's see. Since the person suspects that he may have vowed to bring an oven-baked mincha entirely of rakikin or entirely of chalas, he must bring two israinos, or flour separately, two temple vessels, and make from one isaron rakikin loaves, other challah loaves. He would likewise bring accompanying lugam of oil, with which these israinos of flour are mixed. But since he may have vowed to bring a mixed oven-baked mincha, which means 5 and 5, he must stipulate that the rakikin and chalas of the two menachos should combine, if necessary, to form a single mixed loaf. Gemara wonders whether one can fulfill a vow to bring a mixed loaf mincha by combining two separate, distinct menachos. Who says that's a problem? Gemara says it's not a problem. Reb Shimon holds that you're allowed to do that. Okay, so fine. That's the Gemara's answer.
I think it's harder to split something that has double in it. Say, F is going here.
No. What's coming out is that the mincha that's being consecrated here for his vow is only a part of this and a part of that. The Gemara was challenging that maybe you can't. They have two isarim, and I have two loig. They're saying the part that I wanted for my mincha is half of this one and half of that one. And we're saying, but that's not the way that he pledged it. He pledged one isaron that had 5 of this and 5 of that. Now you're doing a half of this isaron and a half of that isaron. That's not the way that it was pledged. So the Gemara says, well, Reb Shimon doesn't mind that. Reb Shimon says that that's still acceptable.
Reb Shimon's cool. He gets fine.
The approach like Baima, right? So the Gemara says, in Mekamisechi comments, so how would you do a kmitza for this when you don't have a doubt which type of mincha it is? The Gemara says, the masni v'amar, you make a you do kmitza twice. You do one from the chalas and one from the rakik, and one from the loaves, one from the wafers. But you make a stipulation. You say chalas l'chadayo, rakikin l'chadayo amri. If I said specifically chalas or specifically rakikin, then the kmitza michalas, lavi chalas kmitza mirakikin, lavi rakikin. Then no problem. The kmitza for this was this, and the kmitza for that was that. The mechza rakikin and mechza chalas amri. Let's say I said half and half. The kmitza michalas leheve amechza chalas and mechza rakikin. When I did the kmitza on the chalas, that should be for the 5 chalas and for the 5 rakikin. The kmitza mirakikin leheve amechza rakikin and mechza chalas. In the kmitza for the rakikin should be for the rakikin, for the half rakikin, half chalas. The problem is he just did it twice. Where it says, "V'ha boy mekamitz chad kaimitz michalas." Mirakikin, but you were supposed to do them both together. Now you're doing them separate. Kamitz michalas or rakikin or rakikin chalas. Now you're doing twice. Gemara says, "Shemin le'Reb Shimon Damar in kametz v'alabiyadei me'echad al shneim." So Yatza, he says that even if there's combined in one kametz, both of them, so then you're Yatza. No, the problem is over here, he didn't combine. Oh no, the opposite. Shimon holds that you don't need to combine. You can do a kmitza on one that would satisfy the other. So when you do each one independently, that would satisfy the other one. But how do they burn the other kmitza? It could be wasn't necessary. Oh, so he does that as an adava. The other kmitza he does as an adava. That's not a problem. What about the extra oil? Because let's say he said 5 chalas and 5 rakikin, then happens is that after he divides the oil in half, and he puts half on the chalas and half on the rakikin, so for the rakikin he has to smear it on. That's the difference. The loaf is mixed with oil. The rakikin is made flat, and then you smear the oil on top. All right. So Meiser Hashemen Machzir Lachalis. So the remaining oil put into the chalas. That's what you would do after you smear. You put the rest back into the chalas. But if it's entirely wafers, so Amar, we said already before, Meiser Hashem Menachos Daf, that the kayanim eat it. They don't mix it back into the chalas. So over here, when we have a doubt, what are you going to do with the remaining oil? Umar says that what we'll do is Reb Shimon ben Yehuda. The Tanya Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, Mishum Reb Shimon. Shimon ben Yehuda says in the name of Reb Shimon that Moishchan Kiminki, Meiser Hashem Menachos Daf. We already have this worked out. That when you do a stipulation like this, that you do with the simple smearing like a key, which is a kaf yavanis, a Greek letter, and then afterwards they give it to the kainim. Okay, Amalei Rav Kana Rav Ashi.
I don't understand why you say simple. We only have like almost half a dozen ways of doing it. Okay. The smearing leather. Right? Every time you learn, it's shaped like this, shaped like this.
Right. Which letter is the key? So, Amalei Rav Kana Rav Ashi. Rav Kana says to Rav Ashi, no, Rav Kana was a teacher of Rav Ashi.
Probably not.
Did it resemble a test? Is that what they say?
That was probably a mistake.
The Gemara says, Vikal Spuke, the Rav Kana asks, Vikal Spuke Minchas Nesachim. Why do you say there's only 5 menachas? We learned before that a person can actually pledge a 6th type of mincha, which is a minchas nesachim, which is not eaten at all by the kohanim; it's totally burnt. Because Rava said that a person can pledge a minchas nesachim, which is the mincha which normally comes along with a karban, but you can do it independently as well. So why are you saying that if a person doesn't know what he pledged, he brings 5, should really bring 6? My answer is kikam stapkale biglal biglal yachid. Babaglal Tzibar lemistapkale, Mistapkale Babaglal Atzma, Babaglal Zebach lemistapkale, Kikmistapkale Tuna Levina, Shen Tuna Levina lemistapkale, Kikmistapkale Babaloig, Ba Shleish Lugim lemistapkale, Kikmistapkale Tuna Kamitza, Jena Kamutza Tuna Kamitza lemistapkale. Basically, we just gave 5 things that he does remember. He says, I don't remember what type of mincha, but one thing's for sure, or 5 things are for sure. I knew that it was a private one, I wasn't donating in public. I knew that it was one that came on its own and not that one that came together with a sacrifice. I knew that it was one that required frankincense, not one that doesn't require frankincense. I knew that it was that one that only has 1 log, not 3 log, which means it's not a minchas nesachim. And I also knew that it was one that does kmitza and not one that doesn't have kmitza, which the minchas nesachim didn't have kmitza, it was just entirely burnt.
A guy who memorized so much stuff, he just selected memory loss.
Right, that's the only one thing I forgot.
Pen.
Pirashti mincha shel Esreinim. This is the one where the person says, I specified multiple of Isarins, but I can't remember which one. It's Machlekes Rebbe and the Chachamim, if you have to bring 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 all the way till 60, or if you just bring 1 mincha of 60 and somewhere in there is the one that you said. So that was a machlekes. So Tana Rabbana. The Brisa that says like this explains the machlekes. Parashti mincha. I specified a mincha. V'kavati b'kli yachad shel esreinim, and I specified that it's going to go into 1 vessel. B'nei yedei ma parashti, but I can't remember which vessel of 1 to 60 I specified. So yavi mincha shel shishim esreinim. So divrei chacham. The chacham say that's okay. You bring a mincha of 60 Yisaren, and in there is for sure the one that you specified. Rebbe says they can't get away like that. Yavi Menachos shel Esreinim meyachad vad shishim. You actually have to bring Esreinim from 1 to 60. That's 1 plus 2 plus 3. etc. Shehain elef u'shmeinemeis u'shleishim. We worked it out yesterday. That it's 1,830. I forget who the scientist was, but they asked someone. They asked the scientist how to get to like a mathematician. Asked them, add the numbers of 1 till 100, and then come to me when you're done. It was like like check if it's raining around the corner. Like to try to keep him busy. Anyway, like a minute later, he comes back with the answer.
It's a formula.
It's a formula. The formula is that when you do 1 plus 99, you actually did 1 plus 99 over here. Because when you get to the end of it, you're also doing 1 plus 99. If you do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 all the way till 100, so you can take that big line in half and just flip it over like this. Just flip it over. Now what you have is, instead of 1 plus 2, you have 1 plus 99. And you have 2 plus 98. You have 2. You're doing the same thing.
So like almost an atbash kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, you just divided it into 50. So the formula that this kid, what he said was really all you have to do is you times it by itself. Times it by itself. You have to add 1. So it'd be 50 times it by, if it's 1 to 100, you times 50 times 51. And then you divide it in half.
Oh, we did that the other day.
Yeah, so that's the, you divide it in half. So here you do 1 to 60. So 60 plus 61, and then you divide it in half. Do they have the formula?
You probably learned
this. You learned the Gemara?
Yeah, probably.
Like, think about the candles. How many candles do you have on Hanukkah? You have 36. So what you do is, so it's 8 times 9 is 72. And you divide it in half is 36. Right? That's how many candles you're gonna need.
Wow.
Anyway, okay, so here we're saying that according to Rebbe, you're gonna need 1,830. Pirashti ve'ena yedea ma pirashti. I specified, but I don't remember which one I specified. Ve'ezim and pirashti, and I don't know which amount, and I don't know which type. Ve'ena yedea kama pirashti, I don't know how much. What's the third one?
This is the first time we're learning.
No, we learned it in the Mishnah.
Yeah.
But here there's a multiple problem. So Yavi Chavish Menachos. So Shishim Esrainim. You have to bring 5 menachos of 60 Yisarin each. Shehain Shalish Meis. That's going to be a total of 300, because 60 times 5 is 300. Divri Chacham. Rabbi Yomer, here goes. Yavi Chamish Meis Menachos Shal Shishim Esrainim Yachad Vad Shishim. You have to do 1,830 times 5. Shehain Tisha Alafim, which is 9,150. That's how, because it has to be 1 to 60, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, times 5. Okay. What's the basis of this machlekes? Amar Rav Chisda says, "B'muter lahachnes chulin la'azara kamiflagi." Are you allowed to bring chulin into the azara? Okay. There's a problem over here. Basically, according to the Chachamim, let's say that you can satisfy your obligation by bringing a mincha of 60, and somewhere in there is the one that you meant. The remainder of that is chulin. Rebbe holds that you're not allowed to do that. You can't bring it in. So therefore, you have to bring each one as an adava. Why can't, according to the Chachamim, why can't the remainder be an adava? Just like for Rebbe, each one of these vessels is a nedava. He says because I can't mix a nedava with the obligation, so I'm going to need to just leave it as chulin. There's a problem of doing, if it's in a david, then you'll have to do kmitza, and then you're not doing kmitza for each one. So you just leave it as chulin. So Rebbe holds you're not allowed to do that. You can't bring chulin lachnas chulin azara, and that's the remainder. Rabbanan savri mutal lachnas chulin azara. The Rabbanan say that it's no problem. You do the one that you want, and the rest will just remain chulin. Rava Amar the Kuli Amma. Everyone agrees shas lachnas chulin azara, that you're not allowed to bring chulin into the azara. V'achim mutal arif chayva ben adava kamiflgi. Question is, can you mix a chayva with nedava? Rabbanan savri mutal arif chayva ben nedava. So the Rabbanan say that what's remainder in the vessel is just the donation. Don't worry about it. And Rabbi Savar also arif chayva ben nedava. You can't leave the remainder as a donation. So what would the remainder be if you would just bring 60? It would be chulin. It would be mundane, and that you're not allowed to do. We said everyone agrees you're not allowed to do that. So therefore, you have to bring each one independently. Okay, let's leave it over here. Amalei Abayla Rava, yeah? We're towards the bottom of the page, 6 lines from the bottom on Kuf Vav. 6.
I have a question. The Siyum for, you were
Menachos.
talking at the end, Menachos.